Welcome, Rain, to the gutter. Rain has been out and about and around the Good Noodle Gang for. So I know you. I met you through our online community, the GNG, the Good Noodle Gang. That's right,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
How did you find the GNG to begin with? Do you remember?
I know exactly the story of how I found the GNG. When I was a wee baby streamer, I threw myself out there in I want to say a not usual way for me, and I started throwing myself into various communities. And I was in one community. It's a Discord community that I am no longer part of. I don't even remember what it was. And through that, I started checking out. I was like, well, you know what? I got to be friends with other streamers. That's how you grow. You become friends with people.
Yeah.
And don't chill yourself out. Although I do love chilling myself out. And then I met, I don't know if a lot of people here would remember Callie.
Yeah.
That is how I found Callie's stream.
You were a Cali recruit.
And yeah, I was. I spent a lot of time in there. And Dotus wants me to be king.
Yeah. If you could put your cat on your head.
If you will not belittle me, don't belittle me.
Everyone belittle Rain.
Dotus already does. If you would allow me, I have a hat in the background.
Oh yeah, please take your moments.
Give me 1 second.
While you're gone, nobody will belittle you. Dotus, don't you dare belittle Rain. June, how's the homework go? Yeah, so our homework for June is when she comes to the U.S. from Norway, we have to figure out some U.S. shit for her to do. Dotus resisted the urge, so I think you're okay.
I'm glad. I think this will fit. It doesn't work great.
Perfect. Oh, that's good.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a fantastic hat. Okay, so Rain is king. All hail Rain. Anyway, yeah. So you found Callie through a different community, and then
I did, and then I spent some time in there and was invited to the GNG, and I've never looked back. It was funny. I think at one point she said, "You are the nicest, non-creepiest person to come from that Discord network."
That's a compliment.
It was a compliment. I felt pretty proud of myself.
That is a compliment. June, you don't like Rain the substance, or you don't like Rain the person because he's a guest on our show. June, and this is the perfect chance to advertise your grains.
I may have made a spelling error last night. I may have made a spelling error. I may have spelled wheat with 2 E's instead of an EA. And yes, Ellie's got it. And Ellie and Dotus really enjoyed it and are demanding that if I ever make merch, that is the first merch.
Wheat is a grain.
Wheat is a grain.
That's fantastic. So when did you start streaming, and what got you into streaming?
I'm gonna take that off, unfortunately. Geez, what got me started? I think what got me started was I really wanted to be famous.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
No, I'm just my buddy,
fastest path.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm there already. My buddy used to stream back in college. I say a lot. God.
You're good.
He started streaming in college, and he was again. I mean, streaming was new. I don't think Twitch just started. I think, or was just getting started, and he, was having fun with it, and I would go sit with him and kind of be like a background dude in his streams a couple times, and it kind of then it went on the back burner for the rest of college, and after college, when did I start? It would have been about, I think me doing it like more and kind of getting like, hey, I need to like get stuff set up for it and like actually try and be somewhat professional. I think that started probably about 2 or 3 years ago, I'd say. And it was like, you know what? I love all these content creators that I watch. I want to I want to be able to grow a community. I want to be able to make some friends. I want to be able to not influence people, well, influence people, but not like in the dark way.
Yeah, not
If
in a
that makes sense.
manipulative manner, just to be a
Yeah,
positive force.
it's like, I deal with a lot of I made the joke, not to get too down, but I made the joke earlier. It's like I do have depression. That's something I do deal with, and
Yeah.
watching content creators has helped me deal with that. When I'm feeling particularly down, and for me potentially to be able to do that for somebody else. Jeez, I love that.
Game Guy, thank you for the resub, buddy. I appreciate that, pal.
But
35 months, Jesus.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's God, as long as I've been streaming, maybe.
What are you thinking, Game Guy? Yeah, so you were trying to pinpoint when you started. Do you think is something like?
I'm going to say 2 to 3 years ago is probably about right. I actually started doing. I did a 20. Well, it wasn't ended up being 24 hours, but 20 hours because.
You got 4 shy.
I got 4 shy, but it was. It was for Extra Life. That's the name of the charity. It was an Extra Life stream, and so I planned out. Exactly what was going to happen. I had schedules, like this is the hours that like this game is going to happen. So I think I started with like Europa Universalis, which if you've ever played that, like that was a lot of fun. And there was back then I was doing some League of Legends with people, and it was a charity thing, so it was a lot of fun. But
good morning, Rat's House. Charity streams are a lot of fun, and one of the things that you mentioned about grappling with depression. I don't know if grappling is the right word. That was my word, not yours. But I've noticed that streaming has been a help for people that deal with things like that. And I can't claim to know everything about it. I'm not a psychologist, and it's not something that I personally have to deal with other than a situational basis. But I've heard a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people talk about how streaming has there's certainly people where it's been a negative on their mental health, but where streaming has been a positive for their mental health in terms of being able to reach out and connect and to process, almost to process their own, feelings in kind of a way. I'm saying that weird, but do you have any, do you know what I'm getting at?
I know what you mean. And I think for me, it's been a bit of both. There are days. There are days when you look at it, you're like, oh, did I do a good job? Did people enjoy themselves? Did I enjoy myself? And last August, I made the conscious decision that while I was working on some things in my life, I would take a break. And I guess just came back 3 months ago, I think, something along those lines, and just it was kind of a restart, and luckily, people like Ellie and Dotus and some other people have been great, and they came back and they're like, hey, it's been good to see you, and I'm like, great to see you, like I love it, and then sometimes I do fun things and it's great for my mental health, and it's like, you know what, this was a lot of fun. And this is why I do it. It's like it's for my benefit as much as it is for everyone else's.
So yeah,
in a weird way.
Thinking about it in terms of growth or as a business or as a job can be very detrimental. And I do that too, because the goal here is to be able to do this at least as a part-time, if not a full-time gig.
Oh, and great.
Right, it's dream. So. But if you think about it, and one of the things that my wife, Nerdez, is very good at is reminding me, she was like, look, that, keep putting in the work and that stuff will come. Right now, if you just focus on the social aspect and hanging out with people and joking around and having fun, that's the positive. And so that's a perspective that I lose that perspective somewhat routinely and have to be sort of brought back to.
Yeah. And I think, it's good to have somebody to remind you of that. And I do agree. It's, you can think of the business aspect as a side burner. And I think that you need to have that idea. So I don't think it's necessarily awful that maybe you slip into it from time to time. Mm-hmm. But it is important to remember that, at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying it, if you're not building a community, it's not going to necessarily go anywhere, or maybe not in the direction you want.
Oh, right. And it's been said a million times, but like if you're not feeling it, if you're not in a good headspace, even if you think you're covering it up, people are going to be able to read that.
Well, yeah, and not to get too off topic, but as a good example of it happens to anybody, I think it was over the month of August or July. I want to say, I think it was July. Jack Zaptegui, I'm sure you probably heard of him. He did the same thing. It was not the right mental space. So, even the biggest YouTube stars, they have to take a break, and it's like, don't ever be afraid to take a break,
right?
Because it's important. And you're right. People will be able to tell. People will be able to, like, are you okay? Like, you don't seem to be as energetic.
Right, yeah, and and also on top of that, games can be frustrating, and especially if you're doing something competitive, those frustrations can come out. So if you're someone who, like, if you're Ninja and you lose a match and you fucking rage, like, okay, whatever, it's sort of like a wild personality, right? But if I, for example, was to be like, oh, fuck this shit, fuck, like, and lose my shit,
I'd be here for it.
It'd be. I was gonna say that's not me. That I think people would be like, ugh, who's this asshole?
Yeah, I think there's a level of rage that people like, and then there's a level. It's a difference between like a slight rage and salt, and everlasting salt. Because I have watched people that I super enjoy get really. I mean, that's the kind of internet term, I guess, salty about a game and whiny, and it's like, this isn't fun. When you're raging, it's a little different, but when you're salty, it's just like, it stops being fun after a while.
If you were a consistently cynical person, it can,
Yeah.
I can totally see that. June says she doesn't think she could ever stream. I think you could, June. I think you could. Says, I think especially now, as we don't get to see other people as much, streaming is a safe way to socialize. And I absolutely 100% agree with that. And Jedi, I think, is referring to me being if I was raging, would be an awkward creator. To me, I would absolutely be very awkward with that. So do you have a favorite game that you stream? Like, what, if you were going to, tell us about your channel in general, what would you tell us about your channel?
Oh, God, I have what I like to term gamer ADD. I very much like to change up the games. I try my best to stick with things because I know that is a little bit better consistency. So right now we're sticking with probably Minecraft for a while, but I like to have those outlets of things. So it's a hard question to answer.
Are you in Softy's Minecraft server?
I am, but right now I'm streaming. I just started my own server. It is a modded server. And very much similarly run to Softy's because I'm a fan of how he set it up.
Yeah.
And I do have Dotus is right. I do have a chat full of bullies because it's Dotus.
Why? How did that happen? What was was that a spearheaded effort by Dotus?
It's mostly it is just Dotus. It's just Dotus.
The chat's full of Dotus. Who's a bully?
It's true. But yeah, I guess I'm trying to like pinpoint. I like playing chill games. I don't generally enjoy playing competitive games. I might, maybe if I was prompted, stream the odd Overwatch. I've streamed League of Legends before, but usually non-serious games. I don't like the competitive person I become, and I don't think I would enjoy having other people see it. So I try and play single player or multiplayer, cooperative, more relaxed games. Things like that.
That makes perfect sense. Being able to, like, relax. I don't know. For me specifically, there's something about there are days where I am too stressed, and I will maybe not do a show that day because I'm like like we said earlier, headspace and all that. But generally speaking, even if I'm stressed, depending on the show, it kind of centers me in a way. There's like a meditative aspect to it where if I'm focused on like game and chat, so everything else, if there's other stresses going on, it can sort of melt away.
Yeah, I can see that.
If that makes any sense.
No, I can absolutely see that. You have something to focus on, and it helps. I mean, it's exactly what you said. It helps you center yourself, and it gives you something that isn't all the worries to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll come back after you're done, or maybe you'll be in a better headspace after you're done, and you can figure out a way to resolve these worries or something like that. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it is.
So if you were going to co-stream with any streamer, like who's either a role model, like someone that you've learned a lot from, a streamer you've learned a lot from, or who's a streamer that you would just like love to collaborate with?
All right, I have a few different answers. I have a few different. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, answer away.
Because I enjoy any time that I get to participate in Softy's streams. I think
Softy's a funny ass dude.
Softy is a great guy. I think we have a lot in common, and I think that on some levels, personally, I think that we can make some funny stuff. If I wanted
he's streaming with me right now, Jedi. He's doing it right now.
Well, Steve-O's the obvious answer. I didn't think I needed to say that.
Right.
Actually, you know what? I would put you on the answer. I've always thought of your streams as very professional.
I was fishing for it, and I finally got it. Thank you, Rain. All I want to do is to say me. Next question. No, I'm just kidding. Please go ahead.
I was going to say, if I want guaranteed funny,
yeah,
and somebody that I absolutely click with, my brother, who, if the people in my chat would know as Sickly Deer, we can make some of the funniest. We can be salty at each other, let me tell you. But we can also make some of the funniest shit, because I think that we've known each other our whole lives. He's only a year younger than me, and we can bounce off each other like it's nobody's business. And so, I mean, streaming isn't really his thing. He's done it a couple times, and it's not like his steez, if you will. But I would never say no if he was like, "Yeah, you want to like co-op a stream or something like that?" I'd be like, "I'm down." If I have the time, let's do it.
He doesn't stream himself, but this is a term that I got from Jedi, a content contributor.
Yeah, I'd say so. Absolutely. I mean, my parents, maybe they're biased, maybe they have to tell us this, but they always say, like, if you get the two of us in the same room, we go off. Like, we bounce off each other. It feeds it's like a loop, an energy loop. We feed off each other. And
that's funny.
It just builds, right? Like, we're doing dishes at our parents' place, and we're singing. We're either doing like Game Grumps bits because we both watch it. We're doing our own bits because we're goofballs. We're singing
right?
Disney songs because it makes the time go by. Like, those are the memories I remember the most. Is doing the dishes and just I don't know, just goofing off.
That's awesome.
People like their siblings. I like myself. I know a lot of people don't like their siblings. Or not a lot of people. I know a lot of people that don't particularly like their siblings or keep in contact. And I think the fact that my brother is only a year younger than me has really assisted in I guess that friendship.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my siblings are just wretched pieces of shit. You guys go follow Raven1 Lead on Twitch. I'm just kidding. Raven1 is my brother. I'm joking because he's like either was in chat or is in chat. I'm kidding. So I shouted him out because I love my siblings are awesome. Actually, so my siblings and I have had. So there's four of we have a ton of siblings, but there are four of us in the immediate family, and we all get along. And over the years, you have different sort of dynamics that sort of come and go and shift and stuff, especially with a group like that. But now that we're all like grown and adults, for the most part, like it's funny because the pandemic for my family started a text thread. So now now we talk more than we did prior to the pandemic. Like the pandemic created like a family chat, which we didn't have before.
Wow, that's good things to come out of a bad situation, And maybe it's good. Maybe you don't enjoy talking to your family. I don't know. That's up to you.
Oh no. Yeah, it's tons of fun. It's weird and just because that had never been there before and is like crazy tons of fun. Also, let me point out that our guest today is Rain. Do you say Rain or do you say RaiyneV?
Rain usually is just what I. Let me be honest with you. You know how sometimes you get awkward saying your own name? I get awkward saying Rain. Like if I name myself Rain, and I did Majora's Mask. I just finished it last week, and I named my character Rain, and it was like I would sometimes skip the word Rain because it was just like, I don't know why I feel awkward like referring to myself in the third person. It's because I've had this name since I was in high school. I believe is about when I started using the name Rain.
How did it?
V was added around there.
Was this like a gamer tag or something that you brought over to Twitch? Like how did you come up with?
It was. So in high school, I liked to write. I was a bit of a shy nerd, and I liked to write. I did a creative writing course for one semester, and Rain was actually a character I came up with, and maybe it was a self-insert a little bit because I was a youngin. I'm trying to get my cat up here to say hi. Come here. And
that cat has big, beautiful eyes.
The V was actually his last name. And because again, I was a young, shy anime nerd, and I was like, I like foxes. That was his last name. His last name was the Latin name Vulpes. Vulpes is I think a common fox or a name.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was his last name. This is the sordid past of where the V came from, because it used to actually be 18. That actually is a good example. I made it when I was 18. That's why the 18 was, okay, you're done. That's why it was 18. I made it when I was 18, so it would be like 11 years ago now.
Okay.
And I changed it to V because I didn't like I wasn't 18 anymore. And so at some point it just changed to V, and that's where it stuck. I feel like I got off topic of the story.
Oh no, you're good. Just coming up with your Twitch name.
Yeah. Well, yes. So that name has stuck with me. That's what I started making everything. I would start making it all of my like account names for games and things. Just to kind of, it's weird. It's like before I was streaming, before I knew what a brand was, I was making a brand of my own name, trying to keep it all consistent.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, I've had the same gamer tag since like Xbox Live launched with like MechAssault on the original Xbox.
Ooh, that's a long time ago.
That was a long time ago. We're coming up on, like, it's headed toward 20. It's headed towards.
Yeah, I mean,
20
the
years
Xbox came out when I was still in elementary school. That's when the original Xbox came out. I'm not a young boy anymore, but
right. I was a freshman in college when the Xbox came out. Yeah, we were all like the dorms were like Halo. So yeah.
Not to toot your horn or anything too much, but can I say I've never thought of you as somebody who is older than me, like that much older than me, if that makes sense.
No, I appreciate that. I am
a young soul.
I am closer. I'm inching closer to 40 every day.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought you were gonna say I'm inching closer to death, and I'm like, Steve, you're fine.
Every day, taking a walk towards that dark abyss. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of the dark abyss, in your downtime, what do you do like when you're not streaming? Like, do you have things that enrich your life that aren't like stream or game related?
I have video games. No.
Oh, holy crap! I'm sorry. Let me interrupt you real quick. I'm sorry, Jedi. Happy birthday! Damn it, Jedi! Did I? Holy shit!
Happy belated birthday!
Yeah, God, Jedi, happy birthday, man! Like for real. I don't know how I missed that.
Let me. I'll be back. I'm just grabbing a little preview of one of my other hobbies.
Yeah, dude, Jedi. Thank you so much, guys. Follow Jedi. He streams every now and again. He's a great content contributor. He's a good friend and an excellent dude. And happy birthday, man! I'm sorry that I missed that. I feel terrible. Okay, shifting back to Rain. So yeah, outside gaming, streaming hobbies.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. When I'm not streaming, I'm usually gaming. But that's obvious. I think all of us do that.
Yeah.
I also have. This is a little bit game related anyway, and you've heard me talk about it. I have Warhammer.
Yes.
Which I am very much going to play this weekend. Actually, I'm going to a place to play with my brother and a couple of friends of ours. I actually have to make sure that my buddy booked the tables, now that I think about it, because we're supposed to go Sunday. So, and this is one of my, I don't know if you can see it very well.
Oh, yeah.
My camera's not fantastic. this is one of my painted models. So that takes up a lot of time.
Oh, that's so cool.
It takes up a lot of time, especially with the paint scheme I'm doing now, where it's very hot metal.
What version do you play? Because there's different game types,
40K.
if I remember right. Okay.
There's 40K. There's actually, it's weird now. Now I could get into like my base knowledge of stuff, but it is, and Dotus is right.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's expensive.
There is a friend of mine that does minis and does Warhammer stuff, and his name is Lucas, and Lucas Miniatures is his Instagram, but he does. I had him on the podcast last year, I think it was, to talk about the Warhammer scene and sort of some different game variants.
You know, I think I actually tuned into a bit of that, if I remember correctly, because you had talked about it.
Yeah, and it's
expensive.
I told him, I was like, let's say I'm starting from scratch and I just want to have a base, like, you know, go to play, and I even remember what the number was. I just remember my reaction to the number, which was like, you know.
They've gotten better about starter kits, I would say, now for Warhammer. And the good thing about some of the starter kits is it is 2 different armies, and what you can do is basically find a buddy who wants the other one and split. And it saves you a bunch of money. Because you're already saving money on the pack, and so by splitting it, you're saving, I guess, twice the amount. Like, you're saving more. I was very fortunate. Okay, not to get a too sob a story, but I was very fortunate. I have a very good friend who bought the pack that had these boys in them, and he didn't want the other army, and he just said, "Have it." He just gave it to me.
That is awesome.
He's such a sweet guy. He doesn't really do anything social media related, so I can't really pimp him or anything. But he's been a friend since college, and he's very generous. He cares about his friends, and he's like, "I know you just lost your job. I know you wanted these. I don't want them. Have them. Have them."
That is so awesome. Canny, good morning. Canny, it's been a minute. Nice to see you, gal. Cinnamon Canny's here, and that's because of you, Rain. Rain,
I do what I can.
Awakened our friend Canny. So you mentioned your job. In the past, you had a very interesting. To me, it was a very interesting job that I recently learned about. Can you describe to whatever level you feel comfortable describing the kind of work you did for films?
So this is it's a tight line to walk, because as our mutual friend Safti made me realize, if I'm too explicit about all the different movies I worked on,
sure,
some clever beavers out there could, I don't know why I said beaver, they could go out there and probably find potentially the company I worked for. So I try and be careful about what movies I say I worked on. But in essence, the easiest way I describe my job is I took 2D film that was shot natively 2D, and I make it look good in 3D. I don't make it 3D. I can describe, if you want me to, I can go through the whole. I've thought about this a lot. A simple way of describing the whole process.
Oh, I would love to know the process. Okay.
The process is basically, you get the native 2D footage, and if anybody doesn't know what native 2D, that means it wasn't filmed on a 3D camera, it was filmed on a 2D camera. I'm talking with my hands, but they're way down here, so you can't see. But you have the native 2D footage, which is just, boom, flat.
Yeah.
And imagine that as a photograph. Let's say you're just taking one frame of that, one picture of that. We'll make it as simple as possible. And then it goes through, and you have, now this is not standard to 3D conversion, which is with the kind of field that I was in. It's called rotoscoping. Anybody may have heard of that. Potentially you've heard of that.
Yeah, rotoscoping, I've heard it as an art style where you animate over the shot film.
So basically what rotoscoping is it is creating an alpha of potentially moving figures. You know how maybe you've worked in Photoshop and you've created an alpha in Photoshop, and you're like, hey, I want to have an alpha of, like, let's say your Gunners logo, it's just a circle, right?
Yeah.
It's not just a circle, but it is in a sense a circle. You have the alpha of a circle. Now imagine doing that for a character. at 24 frames or 30 frames a second, maybe 60. I don't know why you would do 60. Usually it's about 24.
Yeah, what Gemini
Imagine
Man
that.
was in 60 frames a second?
Yeah, and I can't imagine that. But imagine 24 frames a second, you have 4 seconds of footage, and you've got to rotoscope and cut out, basically, that entire character for those 4 seconds.
Right, so what, four times 24 is 16,
It'd be
80,
about,
96? Like,
it would be 96, yeah.
for 4 seconds, that's 96 images.
Yep. And let me tell you, the longest shot I ever personally worked on was that I did all of. Now there are big shots that we broke it up. And sorry, to answer Master Charles, we did not use After Effects. We used a program called Nuke. It's a node-based software program. I've used it on my stream a couple times when I was doing I was testing out doing some more creative things, and I did a little bit of some VFX stuff. But it's not. I've never used After Effects for that kind of thing. I should, because a lot of people do use it instead of Nuke, but I haven't. But yes, sorry, to cut out. That's basically what you do when you cut out characters.
Yeah.
And so rotoscoping for us would be literally do that for everything, which is why static shots are perfect. I didn't have to do the rotoscoping. That wasn't my job. Somebody else would do it. I might have needed to fix it up because, not to get too far into it, but there was some outsourcing, and they produced quantity, not always quality. They did
Right.
good work, but they had a lot of stuff they had to do.
So
sometimes things got slept.
how do you deal with something where there's like depth of field, or if something's being converted to 3D, is there no depth of field where, if there's something that's, blurry, in the background or the middle ground, like you can't, like, how does that, does that change anything?
It does, and the best way, my cat's behind my curtains in front of me now. I just poked his head out to look at me like, come on, answer the question.
That's a good ass question, answer it.
Yeah. The best way I heard it described when I was first learning was pick a point on the gradient, let's say of the blur, because you're just doing an outline of somebody, right? Pick a point on the gradient and stick with it.
Okay.
As long as you're consistent, you can kind of work with that. But when you get all these inconsistencies where maybe you dug in further, and this is like it's 100% opacity here, and then up here at the next point, because it's like the pen tool, kind of, if you've ever used that. At the next point, it's like, oh, this is like way into it, and it's like at 50% opacity. When you're working with that, all of a sudden now you have all these extra steps you might need to do. Consistency helps you. It helps speed the workflow. So as long as you can maintain the same level of gradient that you are cutting out on,
Yeah.
that's going to help. That's really the best way I can describe it, because yes, you do get depth of field footage, and you do have to deal with that. Dotus.
So Master thinks the future rotoscope will be automated via AI.
I will say that yes, there are people working on that. I will also say that it will never be fully automated. There are always things, at least not for a very long time. There are always things that you need open to human interpretation, because the computer, the way a computer looks at it, its color is just a number. It's just 3 numbers. That's all it is. You have R, you have G, and you have B. So when you have something that's like, maybe it's 2 different objects, but they are, they're a 1 on the red, they would never be a full 1, just saying. But
Yeah.
Let's say it's 1 on the red, it's 1 on the blue, and it's 1 on the green. It's pure white. And then you have an object that is right beside it that is like, it's a 0.9. Those are very close. I think a computer could probably handle that. But if you want to extrapolate, I could go 0.9999999.
Right.
A computer might not be able to handle that, but a human eye could be like, hey, I can determine that those are 2 different things. There are cues that tell me those are 2 different things. So they might have to go clean it up. And that's why I always hesitate when people say like, oh, AI is going to just make your job useless. I'm like, it will make a lot of people's jobs useless. It will not make everyone's job useless.
I feel like mine is on the closer spectrum. So what I do, not streaming, is I provide closed captions for live television, And the way that I
did
do
not know
it is through voice recognition software. So I get an audio feed, and you know how people translate, like for the UN, where they get an audio feed and they're listening,
And
and
then
then they translate it. That's basically what I do. Is I have a vocal style that will allow me to, like, I just say the words to print the words, but then I add in like comma, period, dashes, stuff like that to make it.
That's really cool.
Written
You know
legible.
what? I never knew how that was done. until now.
Stenographers generally, but there are some voice writers like me that also do it. But it is the kind of thing where right now captions, auto captions. So like if you've ever seen a Twitch stream with captions on it, or if you've ever been to a YouTube video where the captions are automated, a lot of it is garbage. So but it's not always going to be that way. Mics and the AI will get good enough to be at least as good as a human in terms of recognizing a word quickly and also estimating the next words quickly. So
Yeah.
I'm under no illusion that my job is. I actually thought it was going to be sooner rather than later. I may have a little bit more time, but it's one of those things where I was watching, like, even over the last 3 years, watching the auto captions on YouTube has gotten better.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing about that, I feel, is that think about Siri, Alexa. I just set off a bunch of people's things. I'm sorry. They start to learn you, right? So when you have things that start learning people as an individual and they start being able to pick out their voice better, I think that's where that's going to come in. It's hard to generalize that thing,
Right.
But I love AI. I could talk. Let me get you started. I could come on and be a guest about AI probably a different time and talk the entire hour.
All through that.
Because I love the idea of AI and what it can do for us and what it maybe can't do for us and stuff like that. But yeah, it learning AI is both good and bad because it will replace people's jobs, but it can also help us in a lot of ways.
So, Master Charles, have I ever made a typo that? Oh yeah, typos happen all the time. So there's homonyms, right? So if I say weather, it's even the something like Dragon Naturally Speaking is going to try to estimate based on context whether you mean the weather or whether or not, right? So and those kind of things happen all the time. And then there are some things that if you speak too fast, like if you're trying to say, and this is her piece on the Middle East. If you say her piece too fast, it will print as something else. So yeah, those things happen like all the time.
Yeah. Now, what is your? Now, I'm going to switch here. I want to ask you because I'm curious. I'm a naturally curious person.
Sure.
In that, if you said her piece too quick and it did come up with a typo, do you panic or do you just? Is there a way for you to fix that?
So there is. I can clear the screen instantly if I need to, if something like really bad comes out. But we have a lot of blocks like that will keep words like shit or fuck or worse from printing.
The filter,
it just won't. Now, sometimes that filter fails, so I can clear the screen really quickly. Generally, what we do for an error, and I'm going to type it in chat, is I'm going to do like what you'll read is going to be, we use a double dash for a correction. So it'll look like this when it prints.
I see. Okay.
So that is the notation for a correction.
Yeah. All right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Sorry, I didn't mean to flip this interview on its head there.
Oh no,
I love hearing about new people's
jobs. That's tons of fun. How did you get the job doing the rotoscope touch-ups?
I haven't actually described my job yet. I started at the beginning of the process and I haven't finished. I completely forgot. But before we get into that, I just want to say one thing.
Yep.
To Kenny, who said, I wonder if I can get a Jarvis. I used software for Star Citizen when it first came out to make myself a Jarvis. I quite literally, I downloaded a British text-to-speech, and I had it all voice commands. I had like eject, I had set all power to weapons. I had everything set up so that it would be a Jarvis because I'm a huge nerd and I love Iron Man.
That's super.
So much. But I'll get back on track. The next step, I want to go to the next step. This is very quick.
Yeah.
After rotoscoping, is basically we'll keep imagining that picture, that 2D image.
Uh-huh.
Now imagine you have somebody who, like, you have the rotoscope artist who made the lines of each object that you want. Now imagine you have somebody who takes scissors and they cut out that every object for you, right? And that's called depth. It's depthing. I don't know how much I can actually. I think I can talk about the basics of what they do. I don't think I can talk about any specifics to what they do. Otherwise, I don't know, Disney will come for me or something. I'm not sure. Right. But basically what they do is they take all of those cutout images, they cut them all out, and they make like almost a stack. And I'm trying to think. There's a technique people do with paintings, if you've ever seen, where they put it into a thicker picture frame, and they will cut them out, and they'll take it like this will be the background layer, and then they put, like, let's say it's a barn or something. It's a painting of a barn. They'll put the background layer here. They'll put the barn here. Maybe there's like a tree in the foreground. They'll put here. That's essentially what depth department does.
Right.
That's a lot of D's. And that's the basics. They do a lot more work. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. I've actually done depth job. I was cross-trained for it. And so I've done it before. It's hard. There are a lot of things you need to consider. And then once that's all done, they basically make some procedural way. This is, I think, the part that I can't get into. They do some procedural way that the next department...
Is it like proprietary? Like, is this like...
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody, it's weird. It's really weird. It doesn't seem like it would be proprietary, but then it is proprietary.
Sure.
It's better to just avoid it.
Absolutely.
For everybody's sake, because nobody wants Mickey the Mouse coming at you. But then it gets to my department. So once we have this procedural way to put everything into that depth, my job is, because if, let's say, again, you have the picture, you've cut everything out, you've stacked it, and you've created this depth, so the background's way in the back, the foreground's way in the front, and you have all the middle things chopped up there. If you think about it, if you're imagining it in your head, what's going to be the one problem with that? And the problem is, when you're looking at it, depending on the way your eyes see it, because if nobody knows, the way that 3D works is, the 3D glasses, it splits your vision into two. Basically, instead of being one on top of each other, it pushes it out a bit. And the further out it is, this is tough for me to remember. I think the further out it is, the further back it is. And then if it comes forward off the screen, it's inverted. So this side that, if it was back, would go this way, it goes this way. And this side, instead of going this way, goes this way.
Welcome back, Trexus.
And basically, the problem with that, if you think about it, is that, okay, now you're looking at this. What happens to all that information on the cutout? You're all of a sudden going to be looking straight through, and you're going to see whatever you would see. The void, nothing.
Things behind it, like it'll
exactly
ghost a little bit or something.
There is parallax. That's not necessarily. It's kind of what parallax is, but it's kind of, I guess. Basically, my job, and this was the annoying part, was I had to create what's called a clean plate, potentially. There are other tricks I could do, because I like doing everything procedurally, because I am a lazy person.
Uh-huh.
There are ways to basically fill that information in, whether it is holding a different frame and tracking it into place, or painting in, like literally painting new information because it doesn't exist, into the back, to basically give your eye the trick that there is stuff in the back there, even though you're going to be only able to see it in maybe like this eye, not like this eye right here. You're not going to be able to see it in this eye, but I at least need it to be there.
Because if you're taking a 2D image and you're making it 3D, you're separating layers, and I'm just using terminology that's going to be unprofessional, and that is just bear with me.
It's a good way.
You're separating layers, so when you've pulled, foreground layer off of background, there's now a dead space there, and so what you're talking about is putting information in that dead space.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. I should have come up with, man, you know what? I had time. I should have come up with some like examples. I could have like put, brought a big board on in and put it on.
Hey, that's okay. I'm following you. I presume if I'm following you, I presume chat's following you.
That was a very good way of describing it, because that's essentially what we do. There's now earlier. I want to point out earlier. I made the joke at Mark about static shots and non-static shots.
Uh-huh.
And while I do agree that yes, sometimes there can be more static shots, there are innumerable amounts of shots. Okay, this is spoilers for what, a year-old movie?
Yeah.
Does anybody remember the end of Endgame? The only time I ever got something, by the way, this is a story. The only time I ever had something full spoiled for me that I was upset about, the saddest scene I've ever seen, and was crying while working on it, is the funeral scene at the end of Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
And that scene basically goes and pans through however many characters.
It's like a crane shot or something from, maybe not literally a crane, but it goes from river, all the way up to the house.
I imagine they had probably a stabilized rig on a person, the way that they were moving. At least that's what I think. It could have been a crane. I really don't. I don't do the filmy film. I don't do the filmy film part of this.
Hey, stereo.
But yeah. So think of all that movement and all of the work that had to go into making that from 2D to 3D. We had almost the entire studio working on that shot. Because we needed to. My specific part was to clean up, I think specifically behind Peter Parker. That was my part.
Prime real estate.
And only for like, I think 100 frames of that. I want to say that was now think back to what I said about 24 frames a second. That was, I think, a 2,000-ish, 2,500-ish frame shot. Or something along those lines. That's a lot of frames. First of all, that's near impossible to load onto an individual computer. It's very slow. That's a lot for one person to work on, which is why they divided it to, divide and conquer. And it's not static. And I think
so. It is in fact easier to work on a static shot than a moving shot.
Absolutely, because tracking is one of, at least for me, I know a lot of. I got okay at it, but I know for a lot of people, tracking is the hardest part because. Imagine coming up with fake footage. It's not going to perfectly fit in that line.
Hey, now.
And then imagine having to track it onto a shot, because if it moves incorrectly, you're going to see that, depending on how long the shot is. If it's moving incorrectly, you're going to see it.
Right. And so... Is that like... So sometimes in a 3D film, if I'm watching a 3D film in theaters... Especially, well, I guess that's pretty much the only time I've ever seen a 3D film.
Pretty much, the only one.
During a moving shot, if things seem a little blurry, is that just where the conversion was maybe not quite?
What do you mean?
As well. So like if
blurry, because there's a few of them things it could be.
It's the best way for me to describe it is like if there is a person walking in the foreground, there's like a almost a shadowy motion blur kind of effect that wouldn't normally be there on just like a 2D film? Or is that just something like with...
That sounds like somebody didn't do their job properly. The other part of the job, because consistently you're pushing you're pushing shots to higher ups and they're telling you, fix this. Cool.
Right.
And so you kind of get good at determining, oh, this is what they're talking about. I missed this, or this was an error, and stuff like that. And the people who are really good at that get the promotions. And so you kind of learn. It sounds like possibly what happened is This is where it gets a little bit technical. Some people do a style of clean plating where you'll freeze everything. You'll paint the information in, you track it into place, and then you take whatever that character rotos, again, we'll use your logo, just the circle. You will widen that by, let's say, 30 pixels, 50 pixels. You kind of want to go big sometimes. And then you blur it by, a set amount that's going to help blend those two. And so it helps that clean plate you made blend with the real background. So if you were seeing something like that, what it sounds to me like is what they call a wide mat, which is what that was. They didn't expand it far enough, so you're getting a little bit of the real character onto the background plate.
Okay, no, that
sounds like.
That does make actual sense. That's really cool. So, in our final 8 minutes or so here, a couple questions to toss your way, and you don't have to mention anything. You don't have to mention specific titles or anything to make sure you're protecting yourself. But did you have a favorite project that you worked on that you were really?
Yes. It was two, and it was Infinity War and it was Endgame.
Okay.
Because I mentioned earlier, I watched the very first Iron Man, and that set everything off. I know a lot of people are kind of sick of the MCU and they're maybe not fans. I absolutely love it. And Iron Man again, which is why I was so upset about the spoiler I got in Endgame, was my favorite. And so to work on those,
so you knew the spoiler prior to the film's release in theaters.
I did. Yep.
And I imagine you shed human tears.
I did it both at work and in the theater.
Oh,
actually,
damn.
at work there was a little bit of how come Hawkeye gets no love? I don't know that answer. You're gonna have to talk to
maybe because he's a 6-foot prick. I'm just kidding. I don't know. The way Jeremy Renner plays him was like kind of a dick. I don't know.
I think he did a really good job, but
I think he did a fantastic job.
I don't read the comics. That's the weird thing. A lot of people are like, this isn't like the comics. I'm like, I don't have that experience with the comics. I actually tried to get an anthology of Iron Man at one point in my life, but I ended up not going through with it. And I'm like, you know what? I like the MCU Iron Man, and I think I'll stick with it.
Can I soapbox for a quick second? When you talk about films, these are adaptations. These are somebody's take on a character.
Oh yeah,
whenever someone comes to me like, this isn't what happened in the book, okay, I don't give a shit, because this is the movie.
Well, exactly.
You know what I mean? Now,
you also have people that go too far, like the Warcraft movie.
You want to honor the source material. I get you. I know. But I'm just saying. Anyway.
But yes, in essence, those were my two favorite films to work on because I had such that connection to the MCU, and even working on Star Wars, I worked on 7, 8. No, I did not work on 7. I was not at the company that was there for that. I worked on 8 and 9, and I worked on Solo.
Man, Solo was underrated too, by the way.
Yes, Solo was underrated.
Hey, we agree on something.
We do.
Solo way underrated.
I don't have time anymore to get into why you're wrong about 8.
It's okay. It's totally fine.
But we can have a discussion off stream about that.
Asterial, this is Rain. Rain is a Twitch streamer, part of the Good Noodle Gang community, and also has done work in the 2D to 3D conversion of films, and so that's what we're talking about right now.
Yes. Yeah, I should let you, if you've got more, ask me, lightning round me, I'll try my best. I know I'm long-winded with my answers, but...
Ouch. Yeah, hit up Rain and follow Rain so that you can ask him more questions and get to know him and be a part of his community as well. There's Rain's stream link there. You know what? I do not know a lot about Warcraft lore. I do not know a lot about anything like that. But I took someone with me who did, and when we watched the film, but also expectation is a thing, right? And this is part of the reason why I stand up for Batman v Superman like I do, is because what I had been hearing prior to going to see the film was that you were going to contract some horrible disease and the movie theater manager is going to spit in your face when you leave the theater. And I was like, oh shit, that's a bad movie. And so I go see it, I go see Warcraft, and I walk out and I was like, that was fine.
Yeah, I think that the problem a lot of people had with Warcraft was they instead of catering to both the fans of the series and the non-fans of the series, they catered too heavily to the non-fans, and so...
I see.
They didn't do as good a job at telling the story.
So they did not represent their source material well, even if it was a different take. It seemed like someone read the Cliff's Notes on Warcraft and wrote their own fan version of the story, as opposed to someone interpreting the story.
I also, in particular, think that there could have been better. They could have told better stories that would have set up for a trilogy. There are many book series that are trilogies that I think they could have taken, or even taken it from different points in the games, but.
Right.
I also want it's not preface because we already talked about it, but and this is my little bit of soapbox, because I joke, I say episode 8 was shit and you're wrong, but that's a joke.
Right.
It's important to remember everybody has different tastes, and don't ever make fun. And I do this about music. I do this about, I try to do this about games. I get a little snooty about games sometimes. Movies too. People like different things. And you need to remember that just because you don't like it or you objectively think it's a bad movie doesn't mean people can't like it.
Yeah, and so
You know.
I totally agree. And if you know someone well enough and have a rapport with them where you can trash talk them a little bit like we do with our friends, like, well, you're obviously a piece of shit because you thought Civil War was good or whatever. Like, that is all in jest and fun. But people,
There are people on the dark parts of the internet.
But don't be a dick. Like, don't be a dick, especially to people you don't know.
Isn't that what Will Wheaton is trying to claim is his rule? Is don't be a dick. I mean, it's a good message. It's a good message for him to spread. So all power to him if that's what he wants to go. I
think that's what Ellen says at the end of her show. And don't be a dick, or something like that. Okay, so we have some last flash questions to ask you just to get to know you before we wind down here. As quick as you can. What's your favorite caffeine source? Since you brought it up earlier in chat.
It is Coca-Cola. It's terrible for me, but I don't drink coffee. I somehow got through college without it, and I'm going to stick with it.
Wow.
Tea is probably my second favorite.
Just Coca-Cola, like Coca-Cola Classic?
Yeah, I probably should move to Diet or something, but...
Coke Zero's a shit. If you ever get into Coke Zero, let me know. We'll be Coke Zero buddies. Favorite breakfast food?
Oh, you know what? Off the top of my head, the first thing I thought of was Eggs Benedict.
Ooh, a fancy gentleman, I see.
It's a classic in my family whenever there's an event going on.
That's great. Favorite dessert?
All of them. Every single one. I'm not kidding. I will eat most. I should say most of them. I will eat most desserts. My family used to joke that I would eat 50% of my dinner and 150% of my dessert. Dirt? I'm a dirt.
Well, but let's say it's your birthday, so you get to choose your dessert. Ice cream cake.
It's an ice cream cake.
Okay.
I once bought an ice cream cake. Me and the girl I was seeing at the time, we bought an ice cream cake for ourselves on my brother's birthday. He was out of town, so he didn't get any, but we had it.
Ice cream cake over cookie cake.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Maybe it's just controversial.
No. Just like it's I'm more of a cookie cake person, but that makes perfect sense. And Dotus and I actually agree on Coke Zero. That's absolutely wild. With a cookie cake crust. Oh, Dotus.
Dude, that could be good.
Trademark the shit out of that, buddy.
Dairy Queen's already got it. It's too late.
Oh. The fucking Dairy Queen corporate machine.
They're watching. They heard you talking about They heard us talking about ice cream cake, and they went, boom, this idea right now. We got it.
Put the DQ stamp on it.
Yep.
Raiyne, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been, I was a bit nervous when I didn't want to mess anything up, but...
Oh, you couldn't possibly mess anything up, your buddy.
You're a very good host, and you make it very calming to just sit here and chat. So it was a wonderful, lovely experience.
Thank you. I always like ending on a positive note about me, so that's everything I ever needed. You guys go check out Raiyne and check out Raiyne's channel. I put the link in chat. It's Raiyne, RaiyneV, and that it's there. Go follow if you haven't yet. Follow. Let's get Raiyne to goals. You're so sweet. Raiyne, I'm gonna let you go first, and then I'm gonna say goodbye to everybody else. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Yep.
Later, pal.
See ya.